Properly installing vinyl siding is not that hard. Hear me out. You need to learn a new skill
and then do it a few hundred times.
It's just physically a large undertaking, so oftentimes people think that it's a really hard project. Let's rewind to a slightly warmer time. I'm going to cover corners, J-trim, starter strips, and of course, how to properly nail in your vinyl siding. There's also a few key points I'm going to cover about installing a dark vinyl siding compared to a light one, so stick around for that. Whether it's a door, a window, or a large garage like this one, I'm going to show you how to get it from right to left to match up at the peak. My first pro tip would be to wait until it's warmer, but if you have no other choice than to side during one of the colder months, I've got you covered as well. The very first step of installing your vinyl siding is putting on your corners first. You need to make sure that you leave ½ inch to overlap the foundation. Most vinyl siding is pretty standard and typically the 3-inch method works. Take your speed square and set it on the corner of your house. You're gonna run 3 inches up and down, mark where your nailing flange is going to sit. The key to any successful siding job is setting in the nails properly. Any other time that you use nails, you're gonna wanna nail them in tight, but not when you're doing siding. If you nail your siding tight, you don't give it the flexibility to expand and contract. And that's gonna cause bowing and bubbling, and I promise you don't want that. After your outside corners, you're gonna wanna get to your inside corners. So this is J-trim, literally because it is shaped like a J. And its purpose is to hide your cut edges around your windows. So it goes in like that. That way you don't see, hold on, this is just a scrap piece, but any of the flawed edges. You're not going to cut straight. Since my inside corner is actually butting up to some faux stone, the J-trim is going to work well here. There are some other inside corner options, and they're called inside corner posts. So if you're doing vinyl on the left and the right of your inside corner, that will allow you to do that. If you're not, your J-trim works great in these corners. I'm actually going to run my J-trim behind my gemstone and then butt up. I'll see if I can do this without it blowing over. It's pretty windy today. Butt my piece up right up to it. And that way then the siding will just tuck in there. And now I'm gonna put on my starter strips. Putting metal on first before your starter strips is not a requirement, it's just a preference. I got my neighbor to bend some custom metal for around the bottom perimeter of the garage. Your starter strip looks as if it's a top piece of a vinyl just cut off. This is your starter strip. And this actually hooks into it like so. So it's going to catch it the same way another piece of vinyl would. Don't be alarmed if it comes in a different color because you're not going to see any of it. This is where you can nail in tight. My measurement is 49.5 inches, but always add a full inch. Because that way, ½ inch can go inside of the J-trim and inside of the corner post. Never cut your siding so that it fits in tightly. Remember, you want your siding to be able to expand and contract with the climate. I think my number one thing would be to invest in a proper laser level. You're going to use it for 50 more projects. And also being a homeowner, your job site is 24/7 at your house. So my best suggestion would be if there are walls that you're doing that have multiple doors and multiple windows and you're not able to do one straight level all the way across and you kind of have to jump section to section, get out in the evening time and set that laser level up, and that's going to help you tremendously. Contractors don't do that. They've done hundreds of jobs, but as a homeowner, you're trying to save money. This is what I mean. You've got your laser level set up and I can now shoot my line from over here to here. You have the advantage to get on site, which is your home, in the evenings or super early in the morning, set your laser level and just check your lines, especially your starter strips. Another tip is on either side of a large opening, my left side is level, my right side is level, but are they level with each other? What you can do is measure from the starter strip 5 or 6 pieces up and then hop the doorway and measure up the other side. It's really common for them not to match up exactly. So what I'm going to do is the next 2 pieces I'm going to leave slightly looser, like I'm talking a 32nd of an inch looser, 2 or 3 up. I'll double check them again and they should match. Just don't think that you have your starter strips on and you can go on fire 20 pieces all the way up and then possibly at the top of your peak here, you're not gonna line up. Always make sure you're checking every 4 or 5 pieces that the measurement matches. As you can see, this is the driveway side and you don't see any joints. But if you come this way, you can see them, and that's no problem. You're supposed to have that, but just make sure you're aware of where you're overlapping your joints. So for here, I worked from right to left, and I overlapped coming this way. Oh, I forgot. One more thing. Learn from my mistakes. Let me show you. So you see my door here, and it has a brick mold on it. And that basically means that it has essentially a built-in J-trim. So your siding will go directly behind it instead of installing a J-trim. So a window that doesn't have one is on this side. So we're going to have to add one. So there's no trim here. You can't put anything behind it. But because we're doing dark siding, what do you see here? Do you see it? These pieces are cut perfect, and you can actually see, I'll circle it. You can actually see where the 3M tape meets the house wrap. And the reason for that is simply just because it's dark. That piece is not cut too long. If this one was moved over, you'd be able to see that one. The reason why you can't on this side is because I have my J-trim. See, right in here, it's also dark, matching the siding color. So this is how I'm gonna fix it. I'm going to run a full piece of J-trim to the left of that door, only I'm not gonna put the face on it. You're probably wondering, why can't we just put one of these on here? Well, it doesn't actually fit in behind it, and I don't wanna leave that gap. So what I'm gonna do is cut off this front piece here, tuck it in. Eventually, I am going to be trimming this out in a larger, like 4-inch black, because if I had my time back, I would have made the windows and the doors on this side larger, bought them on Marketplace, wanted to save money. They seem little compared to the massive wall that I have here. So I'm gonna break that up later on in another video. For now, I'm gonna cut this front piece off, nail it on. You won't see it, but that's the point. Now, we've got this dark piece to put on by the door, and you won't see any white coming through. Oh no. Are you okay? I'll fix you up. Yeah. This is just cleaner to me than having a J-channel butt up to another piece of trim. So now I'm realizing that I haven't actually shown you the proper way to cut your vinyl siding. There's a few different ways you can do this. Above 0 degrees or in a warmer climate, you cut your vinyl siding with your snips. If you're working below freezing and it's cold, you have the chance of shattering your pieces as you cut them with snips. So this is when I suggest using your oscillating tool or your multi-tool. It melts through it like butter. Another thing is how close to set your vinyl pieces together. Your nailing flange is cut back about 1 inch from the end of your vinyl piece. That doesn't mean that you butt it up to the next nailing flange. Overlap them about 1/2 inch, again, leaving room for expansion and contraction, and that way the nail flanges don't fight against each other when they expand. The whole 10-foot piece can move. So you want your nail to be in the middle, that way when it expands and contracts and it moves, you're not impeding one side. If you have that too tight, that's when your siding's going to buckle. Also when you void the warranty. And we don't want that. And you're not going to have a gap opening. Perfect. Next up is your windows. Some of them come with a brick mold, which is essentially the J-trim that's built into the window itself. Mine don't have that, so I'm going to cut out my J-trim and picture frame around my window so that my siding has something to go into. It's the same as when you get up to the soffit and the fascia. I have this little peak here above my garage, and I have J-trim cut out around that, so every cut part of my siding has something to go into and essentially hide. It finishes it off really nicely.
Okay.
I find the easiest way to cut around your windows is to always cut your siding length first and then cut out where your window is going to sit in the siding. Don't be scared of cutting around your windows. Just take your time. There we go. All right. I've got to silicone those together. Just a really good tip also, if you are siding when it's starting to get below freezing, lay some of your siding pieces out on whatever part of the property has sun in the early morning, especially the dark colors, because they're going to attract the sun, and that is going to lessen the chances of you cracking any of your pieces while it gets rigid and cold. I hope you learned a few things. Here's another awesome video.